Okay, so we are continuing with in the last class we kind of we started this. Okay, we explained what you're actually going to cover. Okay, and I think I sent you those notes. And we said that the whole topic is just the whole course or the whole unit. It's going to be divided into 4 parts. The first bit just handles how we form companies. The second bit deals with financing of companies. Third bit, management, and then winding up. So now that we're talking about the nature, classification, as well as the nature of companies, then in this case, we are actually talking about the first topic in formation of companies. The idea being, you're not going to start a business. Okay, you see, if you talk about starting a business, that's easy. The problem is, one, which type of business? Okay, starting a business is never really that complicated. People just complicate it. But running a successful business, on the other hand, that's another problem, because all businesses will just come down to 3 things. There is your operations, and then there is your finance, and then there is your marketing. Okay, and all this stuff only succeeds if you understand what the law, more specifically, what the corporate law or the company law, as you call it, expects of you. Because you can lose your business. I mean, you can start a business and then you end up losing it because of poor name, because you failed to sort your shareholders, or you poorly structured your memorandum of association, or you poorly structured your articles of association. All of these are things you're going to look at. And so in the last class, we talked about the various ways in which you can classify companies, because you're starting with companies, and you said you can classify companies based on how they are formed. Okay, are they formed by a charter? Is it registration? And is it act of parliament, or based on the body holding them? Is it a government thing? Is it a private thing? Okay, based on whether the company is a subsidiary, or if a company is not a subsidiary, what is it? If it is not a subsidiary, what is the other one? What is it? Eric, Rama, Annette? Come again?
If it is not subsidiary, then it is the holding company.
Right. So is it a subsidiary? Is it a holding? Sometimes it's neither. Sometimes it's neither. Remember, if you look at, I hope you guys are you guys doing financial reporting? Anybody is doing financial reporting? Don't worry, Miss Ulysses is all your financial reporting. I just want to know, are you doing financial reporting? Nope. Rama, nope. Eric, yes. So under groups, okay, there's the whole idea of say, you can buy 0 to like 20% of a company. You can buy 50% of a company. You can buy plus, all these ways. So the moment you own 50, that makes your joint venture. The moment you own above 50, that makes your holding company. And so if you have 52% of a company, it means you're a holding company, and the other company that has 48 or less becomes the subsidiary. But sometimes you even now you just have 5%, 20%, 30% of whatever. That just makes you somebody with significant influence. Right, so we talked about all that stuff. So today, okay, we are moving on. We're talking about the features of a company. What makes a company what it is? What are these features of a company? And let's see. First of all, there is the registration. Okay. All companies will start with registration. Meaning, okay, we'll see this under formation of a company, but you're going to register a bunch of stuff. You're going to register the name. Okay. There's going to be all those things you provide, the memo, the articles, list of directors, so that you end up being given a certificate of incorporation. So there is that. This is important because if you don't register a company, you need to understand this. You know, the most misconception people have, they look at size and they think the size of a company or the size of a business is what separates it from a sole proprietor and a company. And the answer is not really. The size doesn't really matter. Okay. You can have a small business, which is a company, and you can have a big business, which is a sole proprietor. Do you understand that? Because most people are just ignorant when it comes to these things. I mean, think of it this way. Let's take something as small as selling eggs. Those two eggs you buy on the road with kachumbari. You know those ones, right? Oh, you don't want to talk because mnajifanya nyinyi mkulagi hizo vitu. Eric, Annette, and Rama. Do you guys Eric, you're saying?
Yes, we do.
So let's check that one. Okay. So let's say somebody is selling that stuff. I don't know how much does a tray of egg cost, my dear. So let's say it's just that. Okay. So this could be the guy. For 50, good. Let's use that. So thank you, Rama. So for 50. So it's just this guy here. Let's call him, for lack of imagination, let's just go with John. I'm not really that imaginative when it comes to John names. So I usually just go with John, Mary, Jen. Okay. So this John guy sells that. And he has one trolley. Then there is this other one. So let's call her Susan. Yeah, still I'm imaginative, right? Susan has like 7 trolleys. So basically she has people working for her. She's one of those Kenyans who has people from Burundi and Zimbabwe. You know those people who sell you coffee? Have you ever noticed that this guy, you could be on traffic or whatever it is, and then this guy pops up with that big jerrycan thing for tea that looks like if, the silver one with black cover looks like if the person is transporting nuclear or something. And they're selling you tea. Usually it's coffee with ginger and maybe some lemon. Then it's like 20 bob or 30 bob. And they're like, all right, so what's your name? And then the guy tells you the name and you realize it's a French name. Like, are you a Kenyan? No. Where are you from? From Burundi. So usually, let's say Susan is one of those people who has like 7 of these people working for her. So it's like you guys have given you a house probably somewhere in Thika Road or something. So 7 trolleys, okay, for 50 times. How much does boiled egg with katsumari go for? 30 bob or something? I don't know. Let's go with 30. So 30 shillings. Now look, if you look at these two businesses and I ask you which one is a sole proprietor and which one is a company, what are you likely to say? This guy with 1 trolley, this guy with 7. Which one is a sole proprietor and which one is a company from the look of things? John, Susan.
John is a sole proprietor.
So John looks as though it is a sole proprietor and Susan looks like if it's a company. So you see, that's what it looks like. But the reality is different. What if John actually ended up registering a business? Okay. He registered a business called John Incorporated. Obviously, you can't get this name now. And that John Incorporated, all the proceeds from these mayais that he's selling, they just go to this business's account as income. While Susan just happened to have gotten money from the circle she is in, and then she's like, what am I going to do with this money anyway? While our girlfriend's friends are like, yeah, we bought shoes and we did our hair and I bought a fridge and I bought a washing machine and microwave ramtops. She's like, nah, just buy 7 trolleys, find 7 people to work for me. So that's all she did. Nothing registered. So you see, all this business, as big as it looks, is actually a sole proprietor. Well, this one is a company. So what am I saying? What I'm saying is the size of the business doesn't matter. What matters is the legal definition of that business. So this one is registered, this one is not. you don't have to register your sole proprietor business. In fact, when you go to like that thing for, what is it called? The e-citizen, all the business registration services, and then you register your sole proprietor, you're not doing that because it's mandatory. You're really doing that because you want a bank account, or because you want to get an M-Pesa, what is it called? Till number, or pay bill, and you want it to have that name. So it doesn't serve any legal reason other than it's the only way to identify that business. But if you have a company, okay, a company being registered makes it a different person. So John Inc. is different from John. John just happened to be an employee, whether he calls himself the CEO, the trolley guy, the whatever. He just happened to be an employee in that business. But Susan and this business are the same thing. Right. This is the part where you start asking questions. Go ahead, Rama, question. Annette, Eric, and Sarah. But I hope I'm pronouncing your names correctly. Rama, Annette, Eric. I'm just basing it on what I'm seeing, right? Any question, guys? Changamke, you still have like a lot of time to go. So, by the way, we are doing this because Sunday is a bit tricky. Okay, that class of Sunday. Just so we are on the same page, is there anybody who has an issue with this? I decided to start early because I know Sunday is going to be a bit tricky. Eric?
Yeah, you've given an example of John registering the company. So it's possible to do one person company.
That's the problem. See, the Companies Act 2015, generally speaking, a company needs 2 people, okay, minimum. But then there's a line there which says a person can start a company. And then the updated version doesn't correct that line. But no, okay, just think of it this way. You need 2 people. But the fact that you need 2 people doesn't mean that 2 people are going to work in that business. So Eric, let's think of it this way. Let's say I want to start a company. And you don't, and then let's say you have like a little C's or a small bro, whatever it is, right? So you can just put their name there and say they have 1 share. Doesn't matter, okay? They have 1 share, which they've never paid for. So unpaid. It doesn't matter. So now you have 2 people. You own 99 shares, 99% of the shares, not 1%, 99, because 1% is something different. So they just have 1 share, never paid for. But then they sign, and now you have 2 people, except this person never really shows up. They are nowhere. When people are making profit, they get nothing because they never paid for their shares. You never ask them for money. So that's a loophole. That is just a thing I'm telling you, Sai. So I'm sorry. So don't, like, you know, in school you learn a lot of things. So you know those situations where people are like this guy who owns cars, Caliph Cairo, this interview is giving where some people swindled him out of his own business. So sometimes you run out of these problems because you don't understand how shares work. We'll talk about shares. But for now, Eric, does that answer your question?
Yes, yes.
Right. Anybody else? Annette, we good? Sarah? Rama? Right. So if you can't talk, you can type. Assuming if you're traveling, you're on the car and you're like, I'm in transit, I can't talk, it's loud. You can always chat your answer there. Kuliko kunyamaza, because if you're quiet, I have no idea if you're there or you just signed up and you opted away. And I'm just calling names. So that's the thing. So the first thing, as I said, you need, with a company, it must be, thank you, Vincent, good. We just started, we are talking about the features of a company. So the first one, we've said a company must be registered. So if it is not registered, it's not a company. In fact, guys, here's how the law works. If you start a business and you are alone and it isn't registered, we'll assume that's a sole proprietor. If you start a business and you are 2 people, we'll just assume it's a partnership. In order for it to be a company, it must be registered. Okay? And the charges will depend on how many, on what you're declaring as your nominal capital. The higher the number, the more you pay. So the higher the nominal capital number, the more you pay. Now, there's also going to be the issue of voluntary association. It's contract. You see, anytime we talk about something that can be summed up as a contract of some sort, because there's always going to be a contract, a quasi-contract between the company and the shareholders or the members in the form of memorandum of association, or in the form of, well, in the form of memorandum, not necessarily the articles, but in the form of memorandum. Then it means anybody or any person who is part of that company has to do it willingly, free consent, okay? Free or voluntary association. So that's important. And then we have a legal person. Okay, look, let me say something here, and at the risk of sounding a bit controversial. It isn't controversy, it's just the truth. You know the way you find some 60-year-old man, mostly it's men, nowadays women too. Women are just as criminals as men. The difference is that a man is more likely to commit a crime than a woman because of, well, a man is more likely to commit a violent crime than a woman because men have testosterone, women have estrogen. Okay? Now, estrogen makes the woman to be more, I don't know, more maternal, let me say that, for lack of a better scientific word. So the ladies who are here, msinikasirikie, it's biology. The testosterone makes men to be more masculine. That is why if a guy has less testosterone, they tend to be quite feminine, okay, in their behavior, and you can tell, okay. But if you know, you can always tell. Just look at two people with their baby or with a kid, and you can tell. Or sometimes even the hair structure can tell you. But that's not the point. We're talking about law. We're talking about evolutionary biology. So let's go back to this thing. A man is 60 years old, eh? And then this guy is probably married, but this guy is rich. Okay, it makes sense. If you're 60, it makes sense if you're rich. If you're like 25 and you're rich, then, you know, that one we want to know. Did you inherit, or are you just exceptionally good at working hard? But if you're 60, it means you had like 60 years of making money. What are you doing? But anyway, so this guy is rich. And then here's where I'm going. This guy has 6 girlfriend. Don't ask me how I came up with 6. Nilikuwa nataka kuandika 5 ikajiandika 6. So they have like 6 girlfriends. And these girlfriends are like, I don't know, 25 years. Mwingine ako like 30. Okay, not 30. People with 30 years are, well, usually they're just 20 something. What do you think this guy is doing with these 6 ladies? Now, naturally, it depends on how old you are. If you are in your 30s, then you think, well, this 60-year-old is sleeping with these ladies. But if you're like in your 60s, you know that, and you're rich. If you're broke, that's all you think. If you're broke, you think it's sex and reproduction. If you're rich, then you start thinking, tax evasion, money laundering, okay, protecting wealth. So that's the thing, because my point here is a company is a legal person. So to understand this, what I'm saying is this guy could very easily have a business that is a bit shady, or a business that is legit, but to avoid tax, he decides to avoid, not to evade, because that's illegal. He decides to have these 6 ladies, and then he fungulias for them to small biashara. I have a friend who does this, but he doesn't do it with women. It's just youth. The guy will go around and say, what are you good at? And then the person will be like, whether it's a man or a woman, I'm good at salon, I'm good at cutting hairs. And then the guy will invest money in your hair business. But all these businesses, okay, all these businesses are registered. There is no sole proprietor here. They are registered as companies owned by another shell company, in which is like, the shell company is owned by a trust. So you created a trust, and the trust owns this, and the dude is just a beneficiary of this trust. So these people will do these businesses. These are cash businesses, salon, that one for alcohol, club, those two things, chai. And then whenever he makes money and he doesn't want the money to go the legit way, he'll give it to these people to put in the business so that it goes to the bank. And then once the money goes to the bank, it's clean money transferred to the shell company that is owned by a trust. And the trustee just writes the guy a check as a beneficiary with zero tax, since the tax was paid between here and here. And then this company just reports a loss. If that is too complicated for you, then you need to start questioning your choice to become an accountant. But the point is, companies are different from the people who start it. And people don't start companies simply because they want to make profit. Some people start companies because they want to control something. Some people start companies because of the ownership structure. So that is one of the advantages of a company. That's just an advantage that people don't even get. That a company is a legal person, meaning the way you have rights, the company also has certain rights. It's different, okay? So John is not the same as John Inc. So this is something you really take advantage of. There's that thing for the rich keep on getting richer. It's like, yeah, what did you expect? To those who have more will be given. Also, to those who have more, opportunities avail themselves, and this is one of them. Okay, so that legal personalities, which means tomorrow you can register your company, have a certificate, open a bank account, and then you're not doing anything with that company. It just chills there. Once you make money, okay, just dump the money into the company and pretend that money is like you bought shares. So it's share capital. And then once you want to buy a phone, you buy a phone using the company. So it's an expense in the company, which reduces the profit, and the company pays less profit. And then you own houses using the company, and then all things of that nature. Okay, right now, yesterday there was this thing trending, marriage, sijui. It was yesterday kwa Twitter. Guys are on social media. Ilikuwa ni jana ama ni leo, I don't know. There was that thing where guys are downplaying marriages and the way people lose money in divorce. Well, that's because you're an idiot. If you're smart enough to have those things owned by a company and your name doesn't appear mostly that company other than shares that you've not paid for, then the Matrimonial Property Act won't even apply because it's not matrimonial property. It's a company's property. So if you didn't get anything kwa class ya leo, at least you've got that one. Anyway, question up to there regarding legal personality, regarding anything here before we move on. Sorry, Vincent, question, Sarah? Come again,
No
Vincent?
question on my side.
Good. Sarah? No question. Rama? No question. Good. Yeah. Now, moving on. So the contractual capacity is another thing. A company can contract on its own. Most of these things you'll see once we form the company. Remember, the company can own property, which means it can control, it can contract. Okay. The management of a company is going to be different. In fact, you'll notice everything we are studying in this company law is different from the things you study in entrepreneurship. In entrepreneurship, we say, what are the characteristics of an entrepreneur? And then you say they are passionate. They are those words which sounds like they are motivation words. What are those things they say? Traits of an entrepreneur. Passionate. Again. Come on, you guys start for those entrepreneurship classes. Eric, what did you guys talk about? Yeah, you guys are silent. So all that stuff, none of those things apply in company law. Just want you to know that, okay? Here, we are not in any way, Sarah. Okay. If you have a question, just ask. So here, we are not interested in anything to do with the entrepreneurs because here's how it works. When we talk about management of a company, we are talking about members, okay? These members are either going to be shareholders or they will remain to be members. The members will vote for directors who are going to be part of the board of directors. The directors may decide to have a CEO, or one of them can actually just be a full-blown managing director. And then we have the company. So when you talk about management of a company, you're talking about these people here. We're talking about our HR, director of marketing, financial manager. We're not interested in these people. These people are, they have a contract with the company. They are basically employees, they are paid salary. But on this upper end, these are the guys we're talking about. Okay? So a company will have that sort of management, which is separate from the the employees who are also part of the management. So that's a cool thing with our companies. You know, right now, you can, let's say you have, I don't know, I haven't checked the stock exchange this year. I've just been this year emission, but so let's say you have 5,000, okay, that you're not using. Now you can just go to town and buy shoes, and then utapewa change ya 500. Okay, that's it. Just bought shoes. Then you come to the house, you put on the shoes, and then 5 minutes later you realize you don't even like them anymore, but you've already bought them. Or you can buy shares in a company. If there's a company whose shares goes for 10, this can give you 500 shares. 500 shares won't make a difference in your life, but you own it for an entire year, forever, as long as that company is in existence. And then you can keep on dumping that, because the minimum amount of shares you can buy is 100. So you can play a game of every month, I'm just buying shares. I'm just buying shares. Okay. So that makes you a shareholder. Notice you have no idea how the company is managed. If it is a pharmaceutical company, you don't know anything about pharmaceutical. If it is Safaricom, other than dialing *144#, you don't know anything else. If somebody asks you, how does your phone work? Well, I press a number and then it works. You don't even have to know how it works, but you get dividends. Okay, you don't even have to be passionate, diligent, and those things, the entrepreneurship. And that is why I told you, when it comes to company law, this is what helps you to hold on to your company. It's not necessarily what helps you to make profit. Profit is entrepreneurship. Company law is hold, control, and acquire other companies. So that makes you part of the management, since you're going to be part of the shareholders. And if you do a good job, you can end up becoming as well a director. Company has a permanent existence, which is different from that of the members, unless you did do a wind up. So as long as it's registered, it will continue to exist. Okay. And then, of course, you need a registered office. Why? Anybody? Why do you think companies need to have the registered office? Because most people don't. Like, you just register a company and then you just put some details there. Why do you think we say a company must have at least a registered office? Any reason? Anybody? Guys, there's 5 of you. So, I don't know, like, can you say something? Eric, Annette, Rama, Vincent, why is it that if you register a company, you're also going to put your office where the office is situated? For legal purposes. Yeah, if you're asked to expound on that, what will you say? Actually, it's technically you're right, but although that's, like, if they want to send documents, or if somebody wants to do some inspection, where do they? Yeah, for correspondence, that makes sense too. So where do they go? Okay, that's pretty much how that works out. And so that is the reason why you are told you need to have a registered office. So it does that. Although most of the time people don't, like, you just ask your friend, your address yako ni, and then that's what you write there. Okay. Yeah, and then you grow, and then maybe, because look, the old school way of doing things doesn't work anymore. I was talking to a friend today, and there was an issue. Okay, there was an investigation. There was some DCI thing launched about. Anyway, it's a long story. But then, so my phone, the guys were tracking my phone just as much as they were tracked, because they noticed we talk a lot with the guy. And so it was an insurance thing. So when the guy finally goes to court, not to court, to the police station, and then he meets this guy from DCI who's like, and this friend of yours, what does he do? How comes he never really leaves this place? And then the guy was like, it's not him who doesn't leave, it's phone. My phone doesn't leave that place, the phone that you're tracking. So my point is, the way things are operating is such that you don't really need the things you used to need back when you're starting a company. Back, you needed to start to have an office and a receptionist. Nowadays, you can actually run a very successful company from your house, although the success will will be limited. But think about it. If you are selling digital products, okay, you're selling books, you're doing videos, all that stuff, then all you need is a proper internet and very good skills to write emails and social media, whatever, okay? And a very good skill to develop sales funnel, which means as an, and then you make money. For example, you guys are doing accounting, okay? You start offering accounting consultancy or accounting lessons or what is it called? Excel, okay? Those spreadsheets things. So you see, you can still make money without really having a company, but it doesn't really mean that if you're registering a business, they won't ask for this. They'll still ask for that because legally they need to know that this is not a fraud, or this also will help in determining the nationality of that business. Remember what we said. If a company is in Kenya, registered in Kenya, that makes it a national company. If the company has an head office in another country, but its operations are in Kenya, that makes it international. If it is in more than one country, that makes it multinational. So that's the reason why some of those things tend to matter. Now, companies will also have things like, a common seal, okay? Usually it is important in identity. Now, limited liability, what does this mean? We talked about it, but what do you understand by that? If we say a company has a limited liability, now you normally see this, ABC Ltd, okay? Like a Safaricom will be Safaricom Public Traded Company, okay? But then it will be PLC, Public Limited Company. So it doesn't matter. The point is, what does this limited imply as far as company law is concerned? So tell me, this one, what is it all about? Go ahead, Vincent, Eric, Rama.
Limited liability actually means the extent of liability goes up to the shares they have. Beyond that, it will not be their obligation to pay in case the company goes into debt and it is being wound up.
Okay, so in this case, to pay who? Say to pay.
The creditors.
Remember, if it is shares, creditors don't own shares. So you're talking about shareholders.
Sorry, shareholders, yeah.
Yeah. So you guys are doing law. You have to be very, very specific. Vincent, the company's debt is limited to the shares held by them. Again, who's them? Vincent? It's not just a shares thing, because shares is just the relationship between the company and the shareholder. But yes, you guys have, you are there somewhere. Rama, what do you think? So you can type that on there. Now, look, when you talk about, Rama, waiting for your answer. When you talk about a limited liability, see, liability, I don't know, think of liability, think of debt, okay? Or obligation. Think about obligation. I think obligation makes more sense. Okay? So when you talk about liability, you're talking about that. Think about obligation. So when you say this liability is actually limited. Now, in the last class, I say the liability can be limited by shares, or it can be limited by, so we said it can be limited by shares, or it can be limited by guarantee. But this was just the relationship between the company. At this point, I was just talking about the company versus the members, or what you can refer to as the shareholders. Okay, so the company and the shareholders, or the company and the members relationship, is the one that is limited by guarantee, or is limited by the shares they've paid for or they've not paid for. But the company doesn't just have a relationship with this. The company can also have a relationship with the people it's trading with. So when a company is trading with somebody, so let's say ABC, okay, limited, is trading with 1, 2, 3 suppliers. And this entire transaction comes to 1.2 million. Okay, so this is a debt of 1.2 million, and the ABC is unable to pay this debt. Tumeelewana? Unable. So if the company is unable to pay that debt, then the question becomes precisely what are we going to do? Now, remember, this company has shareholders. So even if these shareholders are billionaires, which means this is just nothing to them, the company's relationship and the suppliers is just that. It's limited to company and supplier. It doesn't extend to who? To the shareholders. It doesn't extend to the guarantors. It doesn't extend to the members. So it's only the company that is in debt, not the members. Now, if the members are called upon to chip towards paying this debt, then we say the members' liability, the amount to which they can contribute, or the obligations towards that debt is also going to be limited by the shares they have. In fact, in this case, the shares they've not paid for, not paid. Because if they are fully paid for the shares, then they don't owe the company anything. It's like, yeah, jipange. Okay? Jipange. So that's pretty much how it works. And this is very interesting. There's this thing back in this happened in USA. Okay, so there's a time when there was this during the prohibition. During the prohibition, it's that era where they had outlawed alcohol. So alcohol was illegal. Okay, so you're not allowed to sell alcohol. And then there's this guy called George Ramos. Now, George Ramos was just some lawyer guy. He was a smart guy. So he realized that the people allowed to deal with alcohol products were doctors, basically hospitals, okay, who are using it as, painkiller or whatever. So George Ramos, what George Ramos did, he decided to register a medical business, okay, so a pharmaceutical business. So let's just say a hospital, for lack of a better word. He registered a hospital. And then he also registered a transport company. So he had a hospital and a transport company. So it means the alcohol was being sold to his hospital, okay? So that's it. But this transport company was the one that was handling the transportation. So this is his company, this is also his company. And then he had his own thugs, okay, who would go and hijack his own trucks and then steal the alcohol before zifike kwa hospitali. That way he's in control of the entire supply chain. You understand? Supply chain is supply chain, whether it's positive or negative. And then this guy will take the alcohol and go and sell it illegally. So this way, he is the supplier, he is also the supplier. So when things went out of hand, it was this transport company, the one that has an issue. Of course, finally he was arrested, but that's pretty much how he was getting around those things. So my point is that limited liability thing really puts that curtain, what we call, and we shall see this in the next topic, what we call the veil of incorporation. It really puts that veil ni curtain, pazia, shuka, whatever, that veil that separates the business. So this is the company, and these are the members or the people who own the company. There is this veil, which makes it such that the company's liability or these people's liability or debts don't cross this line unless something was not paid dear, or unless something was not paid dear, either in relation to the shares or in relation to the guarantee. Okay, hizo ni mambo mingi. So do you understand that? Eric and Vincent and Rama and Annette. Do we understand how that works?
Yes, mwalimu.
Yes, teacher.
Good. So whenever we talk about Rama, good. So whenever we talk about limited liability, that's pretty much the thing. So that's the thing you have to understand, that the company's relationship is limited to either what they owe but not that doesn't really necessarily go to the members. So you know the way when you see these billionaires, this is a thing I usually laugh whenever I see like right now if you go to YouTube, there's always that broke person who's making a video saying this person is a scam, and the person they're talking about is some billionaire guy or some properly millionaire guy, not some single digit millionaire, like a proper millionaire. Okay? The person is a scam because he's selling these things for like, I don't know, whatever, $30 or something. And then I'm thinking, really, you think a guy makes billion and is already about your $30? It's like, there's always that, but there's a level, there are levels to this game. When you start playing at this level or at this level, and I'm talking about proper millionaire, because all of us in this class right now, you just have to look at how much rent you've paid for the last 1 year, how much you spend on your phone, and then you realize you've pretty much spent almost $1 million or $1 million plus, depending on the size of house you live in. So 1 million is not a big deal. Okay, it's just a big deal because you don't have it sai kwa simu or kwa bank. Or even if you have it, you probably have other things for it. But anyway, so there are levels. Once you get to these levels, you start playing the corporate game. You start playing by the rules of corporations. You are no longer holding on to things under your name. Okay, you are driving your new Mercedes AMG, you know, the S53, which you've just spent like 19 million on, and it's registered under your company. Nobody knows. People see you driving around. If things go wrong, it's like, yeah, that's a company's car. Okay? When somebody's like, amekugonga, mwambie kulipe. It's like, sure. And then they go to your account and they find your account only has 27 or 25,000. That's it. You've been rolling with the corporate card. So the company didn't drive a car. You can't sue the company. I don't, you know, I'm the one who's driving the car. And then we say, but there is vicarious liability. Then it turns out I'm not allowed to have that company on Sunday, that car on Sunday. And like, but you own the company. Yeah, so what? I own shares. Those shares I haven't even paid for, which means I owe the company money. So what I'm saying is these levels, you're playing a different game. Okay. And the faster you understand that, the better for the sake of your, you know, career, since you guys are accountants. Now, the other thing about these companies is that, yes, the whatever property they own, shares can be transferred, okay? They also have statutory obligations to meet. So things like taxes, things like those financial statements, okay? It's an artificial person, we already talked about that. The company is a person. So most of these things, we'll still see them when we're talking about the memorandum of association. But for now, just get it for what it is. The company is a person, okay, which means it has a separate legal identity from that of the owner. In fact, to understand this entire thing was as a result of this case called Solomon. I mean, you probably are aware of this. The Solomon and Company Limited. Are we aware of this case? Or do we need to talk about it? Annette, Vincent, Eric, Roma, are we aware of this case?
Personally, I'm not aware.
Right, then that's all you're going to go for. Though you're not aware. So when you're aware, bear with us. So here's what happened in this case. So we have Solomon, okay? So Solomon was a guy who owned a leather, although that's not even relevant to this case, but a leather merchant, the leather merchant, he owned a leather merchant shop. So he's a Jew, okay? Solomon had a wife and 5 children. Yeah, Jews have a lot of children. It's good. If you can afford to have kids, have kids. You know the way you say, dunia iko na watu wengi. Yeah, most of those people are also not smart. So we need smart people. And the only way to get smart people is to bahatisha. But if you're poor, then, you know, just evil. So anyway, don't take my word for it. I'm just making a joke out of biology. So anyway, Solomon, wife, 5 children, right? And the wife owned 1 share. Each of their kids had 1 share. So those are 5 shares. Solomon himself owned 20,001 share. So in total, 20,007 shares. So basically Solomon owned the business, right? So but he converted that into a company, so he owned the company. Now what happened is Solomon ended up taking some loans in the form of debentures. This one will cover in topic 6. Debenture is like a bond. So, you know the way the government is currently borrowing money, and then they write news, unaona news kwa Twitter. The government, IMF, has just given Kenya 138 billion. And then you go there and you start saying, good work. You should be crying. Okay? You should be like, what the hell? I mean, who's going to pay for that money? And then when you're like, mi sijali, si mtu mwingine atalipa tu. Yeah, before ufike kwa mtu mwingine, you know, the way you'll be going to the shop and everything in a panda bay, and then you're like, oh yeah. And the worst part is you're not even seeing where the money is going. You're just seeing Dindinyoro with a new suit, Rigathi driving a new Lexus, the governor of Nairobi posting videos on TikTok when he's driving a new Lexus when he's constructing a 20 million house. And then you're like, kazi mzuri kiongozi, kazi mzuri, and he's taking your money. Anyway, so here's the thing. So this what happened. The guy took out all these debts, okay? And other debts. So we had also unsecured creditors. Right. So things didn't go well. The company became insolvent, meaning the company became broke. And these people went to court. Now, before they'd even gone to court, Solomon realized, aya, ni kubaya. And then the little money that was in the company's account, he used that money to pay himself. And then there was nothing left. So he used the money that was there, paid himself, and there was nothing left. So these guys went to court. And then the argument was, he should not have paid himself first. He should have paid us our debt. And then now, if there's anything left, he should pay himself. So what do you think? Were they right? Should Solomon have paid them first? Or it doesn't matter? What do you think, Annette? Eric? Annette, go ahead.
Yeah. Salmon actually did the right thing by paying himself.
Okay.
Yes.
Annette? I can't hear you, Annette. Go ahead. Rama and Vincent, what do you think? You guys do realize you're going to be given cases for exams. I'm nafikiria exam itakuwaje. Now that you're quiet there. You know that the way people get extra active 1 week to exams, that's not me. 1 week to exam, if you're extra active, hiyo ni shauri yako. Okay, you had like all these weeks to be extra active, okay? Sorry for that. So Solomon, right. That's what you're saying. The truth is, legally speaking, Solomon never took these people's money. It's the company that took their money. So the same company that also took Solomon's money in the form of shares. So the company was just going to pay someone. It doesn't really matter that it paid Solomon first. Okay? So that made Solomon to be right. And so that is what gave rise to the idea that there is a difference between the person who owns the company and the company itself. This is what we refer to as the separate legal personality. Are we together? So whenever you see these billionaire types and it's like, they are broke, they are bankrupt. They are not. It's just one company that they've shut down. So you know those, these like people are just, don't be broke, is all I'm saying. Don't be poor. Being broke is okay. Yeah, being broke is a cycle. Just don't be poor. Try everything within your power to make sure that you don't fall under the category of poverty. Okay, because it really affects the person's mind. Like a while back when Elon Musk, the shares of Tesla had gone down and the guy had lost around 100 and something billion. And then guys were like, he's the biggest loser in history. It's like, first of all, he never had that money. That was just the value you attached to his shares. Okay, and now is again back to like 300 billion. So what about that? It just again, it doesn't have this money. It's just the value attached to the shares. So that's the thing. Like when you see news, probably like some billionaire guy can't afford to pay for his hotel, and then you see the hotel is being auctioned, and then guys are like, hey, the rich also cry. Like, you are the one who's crying. That guy is not worried about that. By the time that happened, he was aware. Okay, he's probably just shifted the money to something else and is declaring this thing bankrupt because he has looked at, or she has looked at the debts and seen that paying the debt versus running the business, the cost reward relationship is not making sense. I'd rather not pay the debt and terminate the company. These are things that once you understand how companies operate, it's no longer a big deal. So it's the company. You just shut down one and you start another. That's the advantage you get by understanding that a company is actually a different person. Okay? There's that separate legal entity. Now, the company has no fundamental rights. Hata najua nikiuliza mtaanza kuniambia vitu zenyu. What are your fundamental rights? According to the Constitution, what are your rights? Your fundamental rights. Not your freedom, your rights. Kama gani?
Fundamental rights.
Like which one?
Right to life.
That's one of them. Well, right to life.
Yeah.
What else?
Yeah.
Although those are more like your basic rights. Anything else? Right to vote. A company doesn't have a right to vote during elections. Freedom of expression. A company doesn't have that. So Safaricom, when the media says Safaricom, you're no longer allowed to run this type of advert. Okay, this type of advertisement. Safaricom cannot say, yeah, but we have freedom of expression. You don't. You're a company. Zero. That is the reason why medical companies, you'll realize, you'll notice, medical companies don't run advertisements. In fact, the only advertisement za madawa you normally see is Panadol and what? Which advertisement ya dawa have you ever seen? Apart from Panadol and that dawa for coughing and ni dawa. Is not even dawa, that's just a base. So most pharmaceutical companies are not allowed to run adverts. In fact, other than New Zealand and Australia, okay, in the developing country, Africa is just weird. But in the developing countries, well, the developed countries, sorry, the West, it's only New Zealand and Australia where pharmaceutical companies are allowed to run adverts. US and these other companies, no. In fact, even lawyers, up to very recently, lawyers, it was viewed as immoral for lawyers to do ads. And so most of the lawyers who are doing ads were viewed as sleazy lawyers or ambulance chasers and things of that nature. So my point is, when it comes to fundamental rights like freedom of expression, what you call freedom of speech, which is more freedom of expression, companies don't have that. Humans have that. That's how. As well as company can sue or company can be sued. So all these are features of a company. Any question up to that bit? So anything about companies, because you're done with companies, you need to move on to something else. And then, so any question, guys? Right. And as I was explaining, okay, so I was explaining the reason why you're doing this class, we started early and you're trying to push it is because Sunday is a bit tricky, okay, for me, actually, even for some of you anyway. So, that class for Sunday 8 to 10, a lot of things happen at that time. So if anybody has an issue with this, can you just say now so that you can find an alternative? Although I doubt there is one. Is there anybody who's having it difficult if we start at 7? Haya, hii ndo pati ya kwanza kusema mavitu na mmenyamaza. Vincent and the rest. Yeah,
Yes, mwalimu.
good. You're good with the 7, huh?
With me, I have no problem.
Yeah. So if
Even
any
though
issue,
maybe
Even though?
Even I'll be attending the classes when I'm available, not unless niwe nimechelewa tu.
Sarah, there's a bit of a challenge. So what's the issue, Sarah? Because you know it's democracy. We talk. I don't. I mean, we're all adults. There's nothing like tumesema na tukasema. Sarah, what's the issue? Do you have two classes clashing? Or it's a traffic thing or? Oh yeah, there's the traffic part. So yeah, that's definitely going to be a problem. But here's the thing. So traffic, that means, I don't know, if you're using your phone, okay, still singing is a queen charge. But here's what you're going to be doing. If you're joining later, just make sure that the last minutes in that video, make sure you get a recap of what we covered when we started. Also, there's the recorded videos and the notes as well. So if you miss out the first maybe 30 minutes of the class, because let's be honest, this is a sacrifice. This is the thing I want you to understand, okay? When it comes to these lessons, it's sacrifice. You guys are making a sacrifice. I know most students tend to say, but tumelipa. Forget about the part tumelipa. That's not important. The important part is that you are actually making a sacrifice right now. It's a short-term thing, okay? So it's not going to be easy. And so if it isn't easy, we find ways like the videos. And then if you go through the videos and there is any question, you can WhatsApp me, okay? Or you can post it on the WhatsApp group. I think it's easier. I generally don't even pick calls. I don't know. I'm one of those people who just leave their phone. And I'm not really that addicted to my phone. I find it weird when I see people getting addicted to that. In fact, the only relationship I have with my phone is it's something I use to pay bills. That's it. But so you can WhatsApp and it's easier for me to see the message. And then you can go through that. So Sarah, like I know it can be a challenge. It's not just you. Say anyway. The rest of you say you're comfortable, but you don't know. Maybe next week you'll be in town and then you are late. So whenever you find yourself late, your period is 7, and then you join later, maybe 7:20, 7:30 or something. Once we continue, as we are continuing, just when I say any question, okay, you just need to make sure that you get a recap of what was covered when you're not there, so that going forward, at least it's easier. So remember again, there is that thing called return on investment, or you guys just prefer return on capital employed. So there is your time which you've invested. Of course, there is also the finance part, okay? So you need a return for all this. So that's the thing. Right, so other than that, I think that was just a house clearing issue. I was supposed to start with that, but I figured kila mtu atakuwa at that time. So we can comfortably continue unless somebody has an issue. So all this was part of business, but remember what I said. You're not always going to start with a company. There are other forms of businesses that you can think of. So let's talk about those other forms of business. And we're starting with a sole proprietor. What if you want to start a sole proprietor? Because other than the idea that you're not legally protected, it's still a business. It can still give you money. You can still expand, although it's risky. You can lose a lot of stuff. So I just want you to remember that when you're talking about a sole proprietor, most of the time we just say, well, it's a business owned by one person. That is an entrepreneurship definition. I mean, you even see it here, a business unit where the person is solely responsible, blah, blah, blah. That is an entrepreneurship definition. But legally, is what I want you to have at the back of your mind. It's a business owned by one person, it's not a but, it's and that particular one person and that business are the same. Are we together? You and your business are the same, which means your problems, financial problems, may end up becoming the legal problems of that business. Just as much as the business problems will also end up becoming your problems. That is a challenge, that is a danger that is associated with running a one-person business, okay? I mean, not a one-person business, but a business in which you and the business are the same, because you can run a one-person business and it still ends up becoming a company based on what we just talked about. But even with that problem, or with that, if you view it as a problem, it still comes with advantages. But before that, here are some of the traits. One, we said single ownership. Okay, that person is pretty much everything. Now you might argue that, well, if I own a business, one person, but then I have my spouse, okay, let's say if it's a man, these are men problems. And the ladies who are here, but these are men problems. Usually a man and a woman, they are married. Now, depending on their economic status in life, now these are people start hating me. Usually is how it works. So the ladies can tell me, the way the ladies say class. The truth is, women will look at their class or their status. Class is just a word we use. You don't even know what it means. We are class young, don't even have a class. But status, let's talk about status, your bank account, your job, your education level, those things give you status. So most women will look at their status and then they'll date people either on their status or above their status. Men, on the other hand, will look at their status and they will date or marry people who are either on their status or below. Of course, once in a while, you have those people who just violate these rules, but those are few. Most people just play it that way. Okay? If I'm wrong, unaweza tu niambia, hiyo ni uongo. And then you prove. You don't have to agree with everything I say, but trust me, stratification, that's how it works. Just look at people on a date or look at your neighbors, okay, where you live. And then what's the man doing and what is the woman doing? So most of the time you find, let's say this guy has a job, okay? They have a job. And it's a job, like it's go work from Monday to Sunday, get salary, pay everything, and then you're broke on Tuesday. Basically, it's a job, right? And then they get the date. Probably they date a lady, maybe the lady doesn't have a job, or looking for a job, get married, they have a kid. And usually the moment women have kids, depending on their ambition, most women are smart enough to understand that if the husband can pay the common bills, then why am I stressing myself? Okay, sometimes that's the reason why women live longer than men anyway. Other than the fact that most of the time, if you're married, the husband is probably older than the woman. But, and then they say, sasa tutafanya nini kwa hii maisha? Let's start a business. So what business do they normally start? A sole proprietor. Okay, so tafuta kitu naweza fanya, that's the word. Tafuta kitu naweza fanya. And then the lady's like, I have a friend who has a boutique, does a lot of money. I have a friend who has a shop, cereals. Or, here's my favorite. You need to sell food. You can never go wrong with food. That's a lie. People don't have to eat your food. Okay? So you can go very wrong with food. Wanaweza kula huko kwingine. But it doesn't matter. They start a business. So here's the problem. Here's the problem with this no separate ownership and management. So you realize this guy will take from his salary, he ends up paying rent your shop using his own salary. And sometimes this lady, the money comes in, they're supposed to be the business account, but then the lady will be like, kwani sisi ulikula kwa nyumba tulitumia hiyo pesa. Or, nilikuwa na deni ya chama. Let me just say sako to sound professional. So these are the problems that you end up having when you're running a sole proprietor business, and then you treat it as a small business. Because if you treat it as a proper business, then you can have in audit, what do you call them? Internal control, okay? Internal control systems. But in this case, it's none. So the person is equal frustrated, you're just there with the shop that is never really expanding. And then finally you like snap. Then you say, atafunga hiyo biashara ukae kwa nyumba. So that's the thing. That's the problem with running a sole proprietor and then assuming, well, it's just a small business, because this lack of separation of ownership and management can really mess it up. But, well, it happens. Also, it's easier to start, okay? We've already said the owner and the business are the same. If you're going to keep the profit, it means you also have to keep the losses. The liability is unlimited. Deni zako, your debts are still the business's debts. Meaning what? This guy here takes a loan. And then they struggle to pay the loan. And then the auctioneers just show up and pick stuff from the shop and be like, we're going to auction this one to pay off the loan. Okay? So there is that. Then as much as you might say, well, one person is in control, but no one really, it's like, that's not the point here, because if they're both running the business, to be a partnership. In this case, it was tafuta kitu ya kufanya, which makes it a sole proprietor. So there's that. Any question up to that bit? Any question, guys? So here's a question. What are some of the advantages of a sole proprietor? What possible legal reason, or just if you want any advantage, what possible reason would you have for starting a sole proprietor as a type of business? Go ahead.
Decision making is fast and easy.
Right? The speed, okay? So it's fast when it comes to making decisions. You are not sharing profit, except with the government. Huh? I mean, it's so weird nowadays, even 1,000 bob, you're supposed to pay tax from that. Profits are enjoyed by one person. Yeah, that's untrue. Annette?
Properties belong to owners.
So the owners they own everything. That's the thing, right? There's the personal touch. Okay. Yeah, that personal touch also is, it's a double-edged sword, but it's there. Maybe it's there, maybe it isn't. But for now, we're assuming it's there. You do the business the way you want. Come on a salon, you can decorate it vile unataka. Anything else that you want to add? Right. Okay. So all those ones are some of the basically the merits will be things like we talked about. First of all, it's easier to start. Okay. Business secrets are not shared. Yep, that's another advantage. So first of all, it's easier to start, which means it's also easy to end. Like right now, think about it. The thing that is holding you back if you don't have a business. Sai. Some of you probably have. But the thing that is holding you back from starting a business, it's mostly not the idea that you'll fail. It's what will people think. Okay. Today not today, but 2 days ago, this guy is selling these sweatpants. Nikisema sweatpants in a sound kama zile vitu za watu wanavaa wakilala. I don't know. But okay, I don't know how to explain it. But think of it as sweatpants. So the one that comes with a jacket and all that stuff. So this guy selling that, and then I see the guy, he has a nice one. It's a Nike one and Adidas. So it's a nice one. And I asked the guy, so how much are they? Just talking. I really didn't want to buy. And then the guy, so I'm like, so what's your background? What do you do? The guy tells me he graduated. And like, when did you graduate? The guy says, oh, graduated last year. And I decided I'm not going to start, looking for a job and sit at home. I'd rather do both. So I'm like, what did you study? The guy says, I studied business and stuff. So what's your plan with the sweatpants? It's like, I'm selling this stuff. I'm saving 20% of my money. And as time goes by, I'll obviously have a shop. Someone will be there. So I'm like, a shop or a business? Yeah, well, a business and all that stuff, right? So, and then we talk. So anyway, I ended up buying. In fact, even today, I gave the guy a call. I'm like, I need 2 more. So the point is, the guy quickly realized that he's in business. He's a sole proprietor, and he doesn't have money to register a company. And so he's going to put aside 20%, which he is, and then he's going. Maybe alikuwa ananiambia kunidanganya, I don't know, but he sounded, he had conviction. So my point is, just because the sole proprietor is easy to start, doesn't mean that you have to stop there. But the reason why most of you, or pretty much everybody, don't start a business is because you're worried about what people will say. Because kama sai, okay, we just gave that example of Rama gave us this one for 50, a crate of eggs. So if you buy eggs, 451 crate, and then you go and buy it to masijindio manyanya and mavitungu, and then you put them somewhere, then people are buying. You know what's holding you back? You're like, sasa nitajenga pesa ngapi na hii? And the weird part is somebody's saying that and they're not making any money. They're in the house watching TV, complaining that Wi-Fi iko chini. Okay? It's like that person who's like, me, after internship ni venye walipi. It's like, dude, you're not being paid now. What difference does it make if you go for internship and you're not paid? But sintaka hapo the whole day. Yeah, except you're getting experience. So most of the time, that is what holds people back. But businesses ni mingi. So this one is very easy to form. And if you don't like it, easy to end. Okay. And nowadays you can do things online. You can post a picture of some shoes or ladies accessories. Okay. And then somebody's like, where did you get that? And then you say, I have this person, I have this shop which supplies them for 3,000. So it's not hauna kitu kama hiyo. You just checked on Jumia and you notice the thing is like 2,500. And usually the person who asks you that is too lazy to go to Jumia. People don't even Google stuff, okay? And then you're like, are you interested in one? It's like, yep. Okay, cool. Hey, give me your address. I'll have them deliver, and then you'll pay on delivery. And then you just take that address, X, you go to Jumia, you enter that address as though you're buying something, and then the Jumia people will just deliver that thing to that other person. Okay? Of course, at this point, it's just a question of money. So how does the money work? So the best thing is the Jumia people deliver it to you, you deliver it to the person, and then you're paid. And you have a business. It's called drop shipping. So people do this with things from China using Alibaba and AliExpress. All that stuff they're doing on their laptop. It's just an example of a sole proprietor. So si lazima uwe mtakaye hapo. Anyway, easy to form, easy to end. Decision making, Sarah said quickly. Motivation, you're on you are your own boss. Apparently that is a motivation. But guys, let me be honest with you. You are never going to be your own boss in a business. Are we together? If you are in a business, you're working for customers. You just tell yourself you're your own boss, but you're not. In terms of operation, very flexible, keeping business secrets. Somebody said that. Personal touch, meaning you can, if you don't like something, you can quickly change it. All right. What about the problems? What are some of the problems you're going to face with this business? What are the disadvantages? Because it has challenges. What would probably go wrong with this business? Hello? Yeah, for starters, you're going to keep the loss on your own. Huh? All debts and obligation are being held or incurred or borne by the owner. Yep, that's the thing. It's even worse because it's not just the business debts. It's also your personal debts are going to affect that business. Okay? And this is another thing. You see that in partnerships and limited sources of capital. Yeah, that's true, since you're on your own. I mean, in as much as you want to fundraise, it's just you. Knowledge, very limited. Okay? I mean, it's what you know. So if you're the smartest person in the room, that's not an advantage to you, unless you are a narcissist. Okay? If you go into a meeting and you realize you know everything those people are talking about, it's an advantage to the people in that room. It's a disadvantage to you because you go through life knowing nothing. Okay, it's like I was in this social event and I asked this lady next to me, it's like, so we're just having a conversation. I say, what's the last book you read? Because we're talking about some business stuff. And then the person is like, me, since I graduated, I've never really read it. And I don't like reading books. They're boring. It's like, interesting. What about blog posts? No, I don't. See, that's a disadvantage, man. Your knowledge is limited. So you always want to increase it. Continuity depends. Okay, so if the owner dies, the business is dead. So unlike a company which has that perpetuity, okay, of succession, these ones don't. Again, yep, expertise, that's a problem, as we've pointed out. So you see, all these things come as a shortcoming. So that's the reason why you are told there's an amount, if your business hits, you either need to hire people, it shouldn't even be a sole proprietor. So here's what I'm saying. If you can afford it, register a company. Okay. If you can't afford it, start a sole proprietor, and then as it grows, register a company. Because look, I'm not a prophet of doom or something, I'm not like a negative person. And then I'm also not an optimist, I'm a realist. Here's the thing. there are a lot of people who want things from you. Okay? The government is just one of them. Your kids, your spouse. You know, look, the reason why you probably think you love your kids or your spouse is because that is what is expected of you. And also it's because they share 50% DNA with you. And it's just hard not to love yourself unless you have a personality disorder. With your spouse, it's simple. It's because it's either that or you again go through the being single, which is not really as fun as people think it is. You know, it's especially satisa asubuhi yuko 4 in the morning when you're like awake and you can't figure out where the blue socks are. So it's not really that fun. But these people that you think care, most of the time, they only care because that's their survival mechanism. Okay. It's like a child, a 6 months child doesn't cry because their mother is not around because they love their mother. They cry because their source of food is not around. And that is the reason why if the dad carries them, they're like, huh, first of all, you don't smell like mom. Mom smells like milk. You just come and they don't even recognize your face. You're not the source of food. So you think, they want to depend. No, it's survival. Okay. Again, if you're poor, that's the reason why poor people, you know, they look like if they love each other. No, it's because if you separate them, they'll die. There is unity in numbers. It's just evolution. Okay. So now the richer you get, these people will start wanting things from you. Look at those cases, Akina Kirema and Akina Njenga Karume. And those are the ones that are on the news. They are those ones which you don't see in the news. And then there are these divorce cases where like somebody, you spend your entire, they divorce you and then like 3 weeks later, they're with another guy, and then they're like, love is sweet. No, that's the person they were cheating with when you're married. So there's nothing like love there. That's the adulterer number 2. You just happen to know number 1. So, and they just don't walk away. They take your property. So this is where things like companies come in. Okay. So you always want to ensure that as time goes by, you register the business. Okay. You register your company so that you have a company. Because again, other than those, there are these other disadvantages. Your resources is limited. In a company, you can benefit from something like selling shares or share capital. You don't have that here. It's just you. Lack of continuity. You are sick. That's it. It's like if you read this Rich Dad, Poor Dad, the cash flow quadrant, okay, where you can be, you know, like self-employed, okay, you can be, okay, it doesn't have to be this way exactly. So let me just say this one here. You're either employed, self-employed, you're an investor, or you're a business person. It's not exactly this way, but these are the letters that are there. So depending on where you are in this quadrant, see, the sole proprietor person, it's just everything is you. But if you're running a business, it means you have a system. And that business registration is also a system. Okay, investor and employee, these are 2 different problems you're not worried about. So you can, if you're not going to work, the system can still work. Okay. Liability, unlimited. They sue you, they take everything. Okay. The more you scale up, the more lawsuits you're going to have. And if it's a sole proprietor, these lawsuits become personal. Okay. Think about it. If uko na kinyozi and it's just that kinyozi yako there, it's not a big deal. But if you have a chain of kinyozis, you're not there to run everything. Then somebody, kinyozi and salon. And then there is that thing for piki. I don't know what it's called. That one that women put their head in. What is the name of that thing that has that card? Kama ya piki, that big one. Like, I'm sure it has a name. That one. Ladies, maybe you can tell us. So you realize somebody can start saying, we are using that dryer. I think it's called dryer. Okay, I don't know, I think. And then it malfunctioned. Ikanichoma kichwa. And so I'm suing you for product liability. Okay? And you see, that lawsuit becomes very personal because you're running a sole proprietor business. So you see, that's a challenge. Okay? So it's a problem. So those are things that you want to really, really take care of. Again, so as you scale, you want it to be a company. And then there's limited managerial expertise, that one too. So that becomes a problem because as you pointed out, the things you know are just limited to what you know. So those are the disadvantages of that. Any issue? Any issue? Okay, so since we are going for long, would you like to take a 5-minute break and then we continue? Ama mko sawa tuendelee?
We need a break.
A break of 5 minutes.
All right, sorry guys, so let's take a 5-minute break and then it's 22, so plus 5. Let's come back at 8:30. Sini sawa? So is that
Sawa.
good? 8:30 we continue. I'm not logging out, so expect at your link by 8:30 tukue hapa. So that's like, in fact, that's 7 minutes. And then we continue. So we just talked about the advantages and the disadvantages before the break. But let's move on. Now, the final thing that you need to understand about this before we jump into partnerships is that the highlights, okay? When talking about sole proprietors, this sort of business is kind of fairly straightforward. It's simple to establish, okay? And if you're going to start the business, you are going to be required, okay? You're going to be required to have the resources necessary to run that business, because you're not going to rely on anyone because it's sole, you're on your own. In as much as you can take a loan, you can do all that stuff, but you are personally liable. See, this is a problem you don't have in a company. Companies are interesting. Think of it this way. If you're running a company, let's say you're running, now, which company, something on procurement. Okay, it doesn't really matter, any company. So just give me an example. Company affairing, which goods could you be dealing with? An example? I can't think of any. Guys, kampuni ya kuuza nini? Haya, kwani mmenyamaza? So thought you on a break imeisha. Eric, Rama, Sarah, Planta. So yep, let's go with calculators. So if you're selling calculators and then you get an order of, say, calculators worth 1.2 million. So in this case, you probably all right. Yeah. No, next time utukumbushe, we give you that break again at the right time, Rama. So we are talking about, I'm just talking about the idea of resources, the difference between a sole proprietor and a company. So I'm saying if you're running a company versus if it's a sole proprietor, let's say you're selling calculators, okay? Now, as a sole proprietor, if you're supplying calculators, that entire thing is on you. But as a company, let's say you get a request for 1.2 million. That's a purchase order. See, with a company, it's easy. You can go to a bank and say, look, I have this purchase order. It's 1.2. I need to supply calculators. I need you guys to finance it. Okay. So do you want to take a loan? No, I don't want it to be a loan like loan ya kawaida. I just want you to finance the thing, and then you get your cut. Okay. And then you start negotiating. Maybe you get 15% of these purchase. You see, these are things. Now, of course, probably think a banker is funny. It just means that you don't know who you're talking with in the bank, or you just, you spend a lot of time talking to those 3 salespeople at Kwapoko reception in your job last week. Okay, they don't know anything. But once you start talking to the branch manager, you realize there are a lot of things that you can do with financing companies if you're a company, which you're not going to do as a sole proprietor. So that's the thing, okay? With the sole proprietors, I mean, you have to figure out where you're going to get the resources from. And of course, you can run the business. You don't really need any legal formalities. In fact, as I pointed out, The only reason why you end up registering your sole proprietor legally, it's because you need a bank account or because you need some M-Pesa transaction and you need some form of way of identifying the business. Other than that, because even the PIN number, the KRA PIN number that you use in a sole proprietor, it's your own. So the only time a business will have a different PIN is if it is a partnership and we don't know which PIN to use, or if it is a company. So those are not legal advantages. Those are just identity crisis or identity problems. Okay, that's a thing with sole proprietors. Unless there is any question, you can move on to the other forms of business. Is there any issue up to that bit? Any issue? We're moving on to part 2. Okay. So part 2, it's not really part 2, it's part 2 your notes, but it's just the same topic. So in this case, you're interested in the remaining 2. So far, we've talked about a company. We know what a company is. We've talked about a sole proprietor. Okay. So let's talk about other ways in which you can do business. In this case, we're talking about a partnership and a corporate society. So under a partnership, of the things that you need to understand for starters, exactly what is a partnership, what makes it what it is, characteristics, okay? Obviously, advantages and disadvantages, and then regarding forming such, and what if you don't register a partnership? Because you have a choice. You can register a partnership or you can fail to register it. So what happens if you don't register it? So we'll talk about that. And then you also go ahead and talk about cooperative societies, in which case you're looking at the same thing. What are they? Okay, their traits, their disadvantages, as well as advantages. In this case, mostly advantages. You're not really interested in disadvantages because it kind of makes no sense, but as well as disadvantages. But this is what you're more interested in, because the disadvantages are fairly straightforward. Okay, anyway, we'll see. And then finally, we put all this together by looking at the distinction between a company and those three: a company versus sole proprietor, company versus partnership, company versus cooperative society. And so let's start with the simple one. When you talk about a partnership, okay, as a form of business, what are we talking about? Speaking of these things, did I send you these notes? Because sometimes I get confused. I should talk too much at class. Did I send the notes? You guys have the notes, these notes, huh? The topic one.
Yes.
Okay. So good. Now, what is a partnership? The way you understand it.
A partnership is a business formed by 2 or more people.
Okay.
It can actually be a special, they can actually be a special partnership where it is formed by 2 and a maximum of 50 people, of 20 people, sorry.
20 people. So that's the thing. So 2 or more is not a legal term. So it's 2 to 20. Okay. And if they need anything, it can be 5, 15, like in the case of banks, but usually 2, maximum 20, collaboration between 2 or more. Again, avoid using more. You guys are now doing law, okay? And the law requires you to be very precise. So it's 2 to 20. That's pretty much what a partnership is. I mean, in the notes, you'll still see the word more. We just put it there, but yeah, that's just intellectual laziness. But it's 2 to 20. Because think about it, look at this case. Let's say we have, so let's say we have this ABC. Okay, so this is business called ABC. And ABC gets into a contract with 123 Limited, in which this business, so these guys supply, so they supply items worth, say, 2.4 million. All right? And then these guys fail to pay. And of course, these guys go to court. So while they're in court, it turns out ABC is not registered as a company. So it's not registered as a company. And in fact, it has 37 people running it. So do you see a problem there? What is the problem? It's not registered as a company, and there are 37 people in that company, in that business. Sorry, not company, in that business. What is the problem that you can spot immediately? Rama, Lenta, Amit, Sarah, what's the problem? Come on, give it a try. The worst that can happen is your answer is wrong, or your answer is right. So the worst is answer is wrong. I love it. It's like, no. Legally speaking, not what's wrong with the business. What's wrong with this lawsuit? Remember, they're being sued. Okay, this 1, 2, 3 Limited has taken this business to court, and the facts have been revealed. One, ABC is not registered as a company, and the people who are here, there are 37 people, or 37 people. So the number of members, that's a problem. Okay. So which means the question is, who exactly are we suing? Okay. That's the problem. Rama, I hope you are together. You are quiet. I hope you are together. So, we're talking about cases. Good. So there's a problem of who exactly are we suing? Because if it is a company, then it's easy. We're just suing ABC Limited. If it is a partnership, we are suing ABC Enterprise or whatever it is. It's not a company. There are more than, there are 17 people above the normal requirement of a partnership. So it's not a partnership. So at this point, it means ABC, this lawsuit will fail. So the only thing that these people will now have to sue these 37 people using their names individually, because otherwise this is not a business. And that's important. Legally speaking, the way a person, okay, when I say a person, I'm talking about both artificial and natural. Okay, the way a person, because artificial here, example in corporations, okay, in a companies, and natural here we have humans. So the way a company or a person, or artificial or natural, whatever, the way a person identifies themselves is very important legally, because that is what you go with. So if you purport, or if you present yourself as though you are a company, and then it turns out you are in fact not a company, then the people who contract with you think that you're a company, then that becomes a problem. It's one of those things we'll see under liability for promoters in the next topic. Okay, like if you set up a company, let's say you're trying to create ABC Limited, and you've not yet succeeded in registering this, but if you are John and you're still going ahead securing contracts, okay, on behalf of a business that is unregistered, see, these contracts are not really legally binding to this company. The company doesn't exist. So it's pretty much the same that happened there. 37 people secured a 2.4 million contract for a business that wasn't registered. Of course, that's a bit simplistic, because in reality, you're supposed to do your due diligence. Before you get into a contract, did you research? Okay, we shall see those ones in topic 7, 8, when we're talking about the indoor management rules. So for those of you when you're napenda kusoma ahead, which I'm assuming is all of you, although that's not true, not all. Kuna hata watu wajaangalia hata notes, wali download, wakasave, and now you're just happy that mko na notes, si ndio? Jamani tu kweli. So there is the indoor management rule. If you look at this, you realize sort of talks about a situation where if you're contracting with a company, you ought to have looked ahead and figured out if that company exists or it doesn't exist. Anyway, so let's come back to what we're talking about. In this case, we're talking about, what is that? What are we talking about? Talking about partnerships. So what is a partnership? This is a business in which, let me just correct this one now. Yeah. 2, 4, 2, 2, 20. Okay. So it's a business in which there's that, okay? There's an association of 2 to 20 persons who basically pool their resources to run a business, okay? Now, this is important. It's important. What is important? This part here. This here. And this here. Because if 2 to 20 people join to do something that is not profit as a motive, then we might as well say that's a circle, okay? And we'll be talking about cooperative societies. So the idea that these people are pooling resources to undertake an economic entity with an aim of making profit is what makes it a business form. Sasa, tuko pamoja. This is the reason why these faith-based organizations are not taxed per se, because they're not for profit, okay? The faith-based organization, the churches and equivalent, all those religious things, because they all run businesses. It's only that with your kanisa is so obvious, you just see it on TV. Some idiot shows up there with the water, and then it's like, this is holy water. If you drink it, you'll not feel thirsty for the next 3 weeks. And then there is always some idiot lady and like 4 kids who buy that thing. It's, I don't know. And some 2 men who have low testosterone or something. So that's the thing. When you say business, then you're talking about profit, and that will make it a partnership. Because if you get rid of this, okay, then it might as well as be a cooperative society. So there's that. Are we together? Now, the thing you have to understand about partnerships, okay, is that the difference between a partnership and a sole proprietor is just the number of people involved. Otherwise, everything else is more or less the same. You are still just going to suffer the unlimited liability issues. Okay, question? Any question so far? Yeah, kunyamaza yenu is very scary. Is it that you've not understood anything, or you don't even know what to ask? What are we dealing with?
Okay, excuse me.
Good. You're excused. Annette, go ahead.
Does partnership and sole proprietorship requires a maximum of 20 members both?
Nope, sole ni mtu tu moja. Partnership ndio. That is why I've said the difference is just the number of people required. In a sole, it's
Okay.
just 1 person. In a partnership, 2 to 20.
Okay.
But let's. Okay, do you have any other question?
Okay. No, I'm okay.
So let's look at these traits and then you see characteristics. So for example, aside from 2 to more, okay, most of these things, especially like this one and this one, they're still the same, okay? The liability is still unlimited. So if you're running here's the thing, here's what people don't get. Let's say you're running a partnership and you are 3 people, okay? So John, another name that starts with J, Jen, and Jack. Okay? And the 3 of you get into a loan or a debt of 300,000. So the only difference between these and a sole proprietor is that if John was running a sole proprietor, he will pay the 300,000 peke yake. But in this case, they love to share that 300,000 amongst the 3 of them, depending on 2 things, depending on whether that business is registered or not, because the registration will change the structure of the payment. It doesn't change the liability. Tuelewane hapo. You are still personally liable for the debt. What changes is how much of that debt you pay, meaning depending on your contribution. So if this guy contributed 200,000, okay, that's just a lot of money. And this guy contributed 50, and 50. Okay, so then that means this person will just pay more debt, this person will pay less debt, and this person will pay less debt. But then it also goes with profit. The more you contribute, the more profit you make. But still, you are paying. You are still personally liable because the liability is still unlimited. The same way as sole proprietor. Okay? And you're still required to join if it is a partnership. No one is supposed to force you into it. So there's the, okay, so let's clear this. Now, there's the principal agent relationship, meaning what? Meaning you are all acting on behalf of the business. So the business is the principal. You're all acting as though you are agents. But sometimes, depending on what the contract says, the contract in this case is going to be the partnership deed, which you can have. So if you have a partnership deed, then it might actually outlaw the idea of a partner acting on behalf of other partners. You know that thing where one person gets into a contract and then everybody else is bound by that contract. So. But there is still that relationship. There's a lawful business. So if two people, remember the first example we started with, the husband and the wife. So if this husband and this wife, okay, if they are really the sort of relationship where people talk, because most relationship, people don't talk. You just eat and then you sleep together and then and that's all you do. And then you text each other because it makes sense. And then you say you're in a relationship. Think about it. Like, what do you really do? You meet, you watch a movie, maybe it finishes, maybe it doesn't, and then you eat, and then bed, and then repeat. In between, you have a baby, right? And so that's pretty much the thing. But let's say it's one of those scenarios where people actually talk. So you'll notice the husband and the wife could say, let's start a business together. And now that they don't have money to start a company or they haven't had that, they say, let's start a partnership. So you see, in that case, both of them have a partnership. Okay? Like, what will you do as the husband? The husband says, I'm not good with people because I am an accountant. So you guys have accounting, huh? It's like, I'm not good with people, I'm good with numbers. And then the wife says, well, I'm good with people. I'll handle the sales and marketing. And now they have a partnership. So notice they haven't registered anything, okay? But they exist a lawful business. But if they register it and they have a partnership deed, then there is a contractual relationship between these two people and that business they have. That's all. Of course, you get to share the profit, and that means you also share the business, which also means you also share the losses, but it's okay. And it's 2-20. Again, need to correct that. So that's the thing with this kind of business, okay, in terms of the traits. So any question up to that bit before we move on to something else? Swali? Oh, yeah. So now, what are the advantages? What are the possible reasons why you'd want to start this sort of business? Okay. Just think, think. The disadvantages of a sole proprietor tend to be the advantages. Yeah. What are the advantages of a partnership as a form of business? Go ahead. Come on, guys, haraka haraka tumalize.
There's availability of more resources.
Yep. The fact that you can, there's more than one person, that means you can contribute resources from the other. You can get resources. They're easy to form, management better, comes with the expertise, okay, the partners. Yeah, pulling resources together. So there's that. So basically resources and management, right? So there's all of that. Regarding issues like formation, again, just like a sole proprietor, nothing complicated, right? Unless you want to complicate it. So it's easy to form. Look, just because you don't have to register doesn't mean that you should not. But if you choose not to, you can run it that way. Okay. So, but you can register it if you want. In fact, it's easier if you register it because then you can have a bank account. Because if you're running a partnership and you don't have the partnership, that registration certificate thing that shows that A and B are running 123 enterprise or are running a partnership business known as 123 enterprise, then you're going to have a hard time, okay, with the banks. Because how do you form a bank account? Which KRA PIN do you even use? Okay. And that means you're going to be paying double taxations here. Okay. But once you've registered, it means pesa ya biashara, from that one, pay tax yourself. Again, sharing the burden of running the business, that's another thing. So resources, decision making, better decision making, which is not the same as easy decision making. Guys, remember, there's a difference between better decision making and easy decision making. Easy decision making, nile amini nishasema. Think of it this way. I like using social situations. They're kind of fun. In fact, I like using religion and social setups in law. So single versus married. Easy decision making, better decision making. None of the difference. So with the partnership, better. Kwa nini? Because somebody can challenge what you're thinking. If you're alone, well, I'm going to paint this thing green. And then you're like, sini pesa yangu, and then you're done, right? Well, until you realize it looks like a Safaricom shop. So easy. Okay. Easy access to profits, not really a net. Not really, especially if you're both signatories in the bank. That can be an issue. Okay. So there's flexibility, you share the risk, which somebody said you share the burden. What's that? So there's that, okay? So, you share the risk. I think that's what I meant by the burden. Again, specialization, somebody talked about that one. Protection of interests, yes, because you're both running towards the same thing. Business secrecy, yes, not as much as sole proprietor. Now, here's the thing. Let me explain this. A partnership is still just within the partners, okay? No one is asking you to write statements of financial position. Hakuna mtu anataka balance sheet. No one is interested in your income statement. I mean, you can do them, but no one is asking for them in the form of shareholders, okay? So you can keep those secrets. But if you're running a company, you have to present your, especially if it's a company and you have shareholders. Those shareholders have a right to access those books of account. So the secret is no longer just that. Okay, what about disadvantages? What could possibly go wrong? Come on, again, chap tumalize. Tuende kwa kitu ingine. What are the disadvantages if you're running a partnership?
Conflicts.
Yep, there's conflicts. What else?
Profit must be shared.
Yeah, you're not going to keep the profit. You're going to share the profit. Okay, that's a disadvantage. And by the way, which makes sharing losses an advantage. Okay.
Yeah.
So losses becomes an advantage because you don't lose everything. There's this thing. Let me just explain this one before to up. Okay. There's this mindset. There's this tech hub in along Ngong Road. For those of you in Nairobi, China, what is it called? China Place. That area. So there are these tech hubs where people writing softwares, they're given the space. So there's internet and then there's, anyway. So this one time I was talking to those entrepreneurs because we are hired as the consultants. And I was telling some of them, they were complaining. They're like, actually, they're taking 25% of our business in exchange for only 300,000. If the business is good, they invest 10,000. Okay. And then I was asking the guy, okay, so let's say these guys did the 300,000, you grow your business to a point where the business is valued at, say, 3 million. You don't go to. Would you rather own 75%, okay, of a business that makes 3 million per month, or would you own 100% of a business that makes 30,000 per month. So these are the problems that most people don't see. Like most people want to own 100% of something just so they can say, hi, I'm ABCD and I'm a businessman, or I'm a business lady. It's like, yeah, but how's your business performing? So that's the thing. So sometimes when you want to grow, you're going to have to, and we shall see this in topic 4. Sometimes growth means issuing shares. Actually, that will be in topic 5, share capital. Okay. Sometimes growth means issuing shares. Okay. Losing part of your business in exchange for capital so that the business can grow. Since you aren't talking about shares, you're talking about partnership. This could also mean owning just a part of the business. Maybe it's a partnership where you contributed 70%, the other person contributed 30%. So that's how you share losses, and that's how you share profit as well. Sometimes you don't even contribute money. Sometimes you contribute expertise and the other person contributes money. Okay? Like let's say your partner is good at software programming and you are good at accounting. And so you say, let's make an accounting based software that will help the companies to do ABCD. Maybe you've looked at QuickBooks, Pastel, Sage, and then realize, okay, this is a problem. What if you can fix this problem by combining these and then doing this? And then you're good at accounting, this guy is good at software, but you are both broke. And then number 3 person has no idea what accounting entails, has no idea what software programming entails, but they have money. It means you guys will be willing to lose part of the business in exchange for capital so that you finance it and then it grows. So that means, that's the thing that comes with partnership. So in case you lose only a percentage of the money. Anyway, so we are continuing the advantages. So unlimited liability, that's an advantage. What else do we have? So all this stuff, you have to do that. You have to do that kind of math. I'm not saying give out equity. I'm just saying do the math. So in addition to all those things you've said, right, liability, there is instability. I think this is what you meant by Sarah, conflict. Was this? I'm assuming. Okay. Because anytime you put 2 people together in a room, or 3 people, there's always going to be conflict, okay? It's human nature. See, here's the thing, what your brain does, your brain kind of, I don't know, does your brain trick you or it tricks itself? The first thing your brain does is this thing called homeostasis, if you did biology, okay? The idea that I want my environment to remain the way it is. In your common, if you visit somebody, you go to their house, and then you notice that the house need to be painted. The wall, okay, there's some 2 or 3 cobwebs somewhere. The arrangement of the furniture is not that interesting, but to them, they are used to it that way because they've been living that way. Okay, it's like, or even gym. You need all to the answers. You guys made resolutions to enter gym. So here's what happens. You find somebody, they're like 37 years and they are unhealthy. Okay. And then they show up in the gym and then they say, well, I want to lose, I don't know, whatever kgs. And then you ask them, have you ever done sports before? No. Are you married? Yes. Your spouse, have they told you to go and work out? Not really, don't talk about it. In short, you're used to, you've had 37 years of your life of being unhealthy. What makes you think you're going to change it now? Your body's used to that thing. So it will demand a lot of willpower for you to change. So the same thing happens with businesses, okay? It demands a lot of, I mean, you can change, but it demands a lot of, conviction on your side. So your brain is used to that, okay? And so that is why conflict will definitely arise whenever there is more than 1 person in that proximity. In as much as we said there's capital, it's still limited because the capital is just limited to the number of people you are doing that business with. The shares not transferable. Okay, when you say many got a 70% share for your business, you can't transfer that in a partnership. Unlike in a company you can transfer your shares. Okay, and okay, that still goes to that. And then another point here for instability, so that we have 2 points. Death of one partner, if you are 2, can end the partnership. Right, so those are disadvantages. Now, let's see. How do you then form these businesses? And it's simple. 2 to 20 people, okay? And then you decide, do you want to run a business in the name of making money? You form the business. So the choice is, do we register it or not? So if you choose to register your business, it means that agreement, the agreement between you and your partner, okay, is going to be summed up in what is called a partnership deed. Okay, this is like a covenant. It's an agreement that says so and so and so and so are running a business. And in this business, this is what they're going to be doing. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and things of that nature. So that's the thing with the partnership deed. So what are the contents of a partnership deed? Let's start from what we know, going towards what we don't know. Let's assume you've gotten into that agreement. What will this deed contain? If you and your friend decide to form a partnership, what will your partnership deed contain? Itakuwa na vitu kama gani na gani? What are the contents? There are things which don't even require us to just think about it. If you have to form a partnership, say, what will you write down in your agreement? What are some of the things? There's going to be the name of the partnership. Planta, thank you. What else do you have? Come on. Guys, tuchangamke tumalize class. I'm starting to feel hungry. Terms and conditions of the partnership. The ratio of capital contribution, precisely. Okay. Anything else? You guys are not thinking about the end. Date of formation. What about the end? You don't always have to run profit sharing. Look, not all businesses are designed to be run forever. Think about it. Let's say you have a friend and they go to China. China ni mbali. Let me stop giving you hopes of China. Let me just make it local. They go to Uganda. What thing could you name and details of the partners? Yes. So what are some of the things that you might want to get from Uganda? Let's go with this example. The period of the farm, good. So think, East African. Nini unaweza toa Uganda uze Kenya? I want to explain something about the end of a partnership deed using this example here, Uganda. Anything? Guys, come on. Yani medharau Uganda hivyo. Milk. Ya lato na vitenge. Actually, I was just expecting somebody to say vitenge in a bag. So milk, vitenge. Vitenge na Kiswahili ni? Na English? Is it dashiki? Because I saw dashiki and then the person was wearing kitinakaa kitenge. I don't know. So, and let's say those 2 bags, right? I mean, if it's milk, is it that lato ama maziwa gani? So anyway, so this friend of yours goes to Uganda, and then you say, how long are you going to be in Uganda? Then I tell you, yeah, well, I'm in school. I'm just going there to study. They're going to one of those universities, like in Makerere or whatever it is, right? So they're going to be there for 2 years. And then you say, let's form a partnership, which means this partnership is going to last for 2 years, in which you buy these things, okay, from UG. Since you're there, you know the market, and you package them. We will use whatever courier to bring them to Kenya. And since I'm in Kenya, I sell them. So you become the person who's doing the sourcing. Okay. I become the person who's doing the outbound logistics, basically sell, distribute in Kenya. You have a partnership which is supposed to start and end in 2 years, because the moment they graduate, the thing is over. Or the moment their contract expires, if it's a work, the partnership is over. So all those things are going to be stated in the partnership deed. So not all businesses are designed for like forever and ever and whatever. So moving on. Now your deed will contain all those things you've mentioned, okay? The name, so you guys understand these things, okay? The name, mnazijua. The nature of the business, it's a partnership. Names of the partners and their addresses, where is the business situated, how long does it last, if you've decided how much capital, profit and loss are you going to share, are you going to share the profit and losses? That's important because it will depend on how much you've each contributed, okay? There's also going to be the issue of powers. What do you do? Who does what? Salaries as partners and withdrawal. That's why when Annette said easy access of profit, I was like, not really. Because remember, you have to say, when do we withdraw what? Okay? When do we do audit? Because we need to do them. It will cost us money. How do we dissolve the firm? And in case we have issues, how do we settle such? These are important. These are things that whenever you get into a partnership, you always have to figure that one out. Any partnership, hata kama ndio marriage is a partnership, it's a contract, okay? So you always have to, most people don't talk about this. Most people don't talk about, okay, what if you have problems? How are you going to be solving our disputes? You're like, no, babe, we love each other. Tutawahi sana. So you need to figure out all that stuff, okay? Because your partner can easily go to court and that becomes litigation and that's just expensive. Or do we do negotiation? Do we do arbitration? Do we use mediation? These are conflict resolution mechanisms that are way cheaper and are way private, or confidential is more like it, more confidential than litigation. Because when you go to court, that's a public record. Anybody can access that record as long as those records are not sealed. So that's something you don't always want to run for. Right, any issue before we move on? We're almost done. Question? Nyinyi mnaelewa tu kila kitu, hamna swali? Or is it that you've not understood hata tujui tulize nini? Which one is it? Ama tujafika part ngumu ngumu? Eric, is that what you're going for? And Vincent? Sarah? Hatujafika part ngumu ya kuuliza swali. Annette?
Okay, you are not directly explained, so we are understanding.
Yeah, I'm understand tu mpaka time ya exam. when it gets to exam.
Hatujafika part ngumu.
So let's go with that one. Let's go with that. Hatujafika part ngumu. We are still at the easier moments, huh? So you can go with that. Yeah, so by the way, these things are not that difficult. People just say, no, it's not. It's just communication and logic. It's easy. All right, so here's the second thing. So we said you can create a partnership without registering it. So the two of you just decide. But there's a problem with that because it's always a good idea to go ahead and register that partnership. So what are the consequences of non-registration? Let's assume we don't register it. What will be the repercussions? Now, the problem if you don't register your partnership is that, first of all, since the business has no way of identifying itself, okay, it's just John and Mary, okay? Or hizo jina zinakuwa John and Mary. Jina ingine gani inaendaga pamoja? Tom and Mary, I think that one too, right? So since it's just names, that business has no self-identity, which means it cannot enforce a claim against a third party. If that business wants to sue somebody, to be like, okay, first of all, who are you? Okay, how do you identify? How do you identify the business? It's like, we have no way of identifying the business. And you see that becomes a problem, right? So that's an issue. Number two, it also can't sue its partners because it doesn't exist. I mean, the partnership exists, but the way of identifying that partnership doesn't exist. Let me give you an example here. I'm just going to, okay, let me not pick a name because you people can be very sensitive to your names. Let's say somebody's called John. Okay, it's just the example I'm using. That's the one that is sensitive. So this guy called John. Let's give them three names. So the person is called John. Jina ya pili tutatumia ni gani? Otieno, Karaoke. Let's say that's the name of this person. John Otieno Karaoke. If you want to kill John, okay, legally. I mean, you can just kill the person illegally, shoot him. But let's say you want to kill him legally. You know the way easy vitu zenye the president and the teams wanashinda wakiropoko hapa. We need you to have our data online. And then you'll find like some 21-year-old who hasn't really done anything. Thinks, yeah, that's a good idea. Digital, not a panga line. All you have to do is get that data and then change the name of this, change the status of this John from alive to deceased. And find some doctor who's just as equally crooked to sign a death certificate. That's it. Death certificate. And then you take this death certificate and you give it to John's next of kin. Let's say it's John's wife who wants to kill John. So John has gone to work. He has gone to work in, there are those places that Kenyans tend to go when they are broke. They've gone to Qatar. Okay. You know, those are the jobs. I mean, if you're a professional, you'll go and work anywhere in UK. But if you don't have a profession, most of the people just end up going in United Arab Emirates. You're like, unafanya nini huko mimi dereva? Naoshaga vyombo. Anyway, so John is there, right? And then the wife forges this, takes the certificate, goes to bank, presents it. My husband is dead. I was the next of kin. Yes, indeed, you're the next of kin. And the data shows that John is dead. That's it. And then John comes back. It's like, but do you mean? It's like, yeah, do you aware, but you are deceased, you are dead. So that's the thing. That's what I mean by identity. If you have no way of identifying yourself, even if you're standing there, legally, you don't exist. Are we together? That is why kids have no way of identifying themselves. We just put them under their parents' name until they become 18 and they get ID. So they are protected as state property. Okay? So that's the thing. Now, going back to this business, since the business has no way of identifying itself, it cannot sue the partners, it cannot sue a third party, okay? The partners too, okay, cannot file a lawsuit against the firm, or in this case, the partnership, okay? So all these are going to be issues regarding or rather facing that unregistered business, okay? If a partner, okay, so let's say the partner wants to sue in case of a dissolution, okay? Then there's that. The problem is, who exactly are you suing? Okay, but that's going to be a problem. Now, when the business is being dissolved, we are ending the business. We are ending the business, or anyway. Then, even if it's registered or not, you can still end it. So these things are not affected. So the following are not affected by non-registration. So even if you don't register your partnership, you can still end it, okay? And share the, what is it called? The assets, okay? In case you're dealing with the receiver can still dissolve a partner, an insolvent partner. Nile tu jina ya kuandika hapo ndio hakuna, so you'll just write both of your names. A and B, you are carrying out a business as a partnership. And the partnership has not been dissolved, okay? So the receiver can do that. That's all. The specific rights of the firm or the partners have no place of business, okay? Have no place of business. It's because simple, the business doesn't exist. So your rights, the rights of the firm, the rights of the partners, not really. It's just 3 people or 2 people running a business. A third party can still sue. This is important. A third party can still sue the unregistered business. Nataka tuelewe hii tusi confuse. Let me go back, because now I'm starting to feel we are getting confused. Let me go back to that slide. These are. Unaona, we said the business cannot sue a third party. So we said that. We said the business cannot sue a third party because the business has no way of identifying itself. But a third party, okay, a third party can sue the business. How? By using the partners' names. Okay, you will say, I'm suing ABC. I'm suing 1, 2, 3 partners who are carrying out a business under the name of ABC. The business itself cannot say, I am suing, because you'll say, who are you? Okay, but another person can sue the business using the partner's name. So technically ends up suing the firm. Okay, That is the end of partnership up to that bit. Any question? I mean, I know there are more things in the notes than here. For example, if a partner, okay, any question before I pose another question?
Mwalimu, the slide number 12.
Slide number 12.
Partners of unregistered firm cannot file any suit to enforce a right against the firm.
Yeah.
Then slide number 13. The
Yeah.
right of a partner to sue for the dissolution of the firm or the accounts of a dissolved. I'm confused.
To end, okay? The right of a partner to say to malize a partnership is not affected whether the partnership is registered or not. That's all. If
Okay.
let me say, if you and your friend have a partnership, but it's not registered, okay? It means you can still say, I want this partnership to end. But you cannot sue the partnership itself because it doesn't have a name, but the relationship between you and your friend exists, and that is what you want to end. Is that clear, Sarah? Sarah?
Yes.
All right. So that is what that means. Any other question?
It's clear now. Thanks.
So. Now, look at this case. Let me give you one case, and then we go to cooperative societies, and then we end the class, because I think watu wamekaa sana mkiangalia masimu na malaptop. People can think that you're doing something serious. Hata kumbe hakuna, unasoma tu partnership. So look at this thing. Let's say we have John again and Mary. Okay, these people are in a partnership. So let's call the partnership X. And it's 2023. And so which supermarket can we use? Naivas. So they get goods from Naivas worth, I don't know, maybe 1 million. And then in 2024, January, so this was DEC. Then in January, Jack decides to join the partnership. So now there are 3 of them. And then let's skip forward, February. These guys are like, hey, I'm Jatulipa, we are taking you to court. So Naivas decides to sue them, sue this partnership. So the question is Jack also going to contribute towards this debt, which was taken in DEC, Nayame joined in January? Is Jack also going to contribute towards the payment of the debt of 1 million, just taken in December? Yes, no, why, maybe? What's your answer? Oh, that's a quick thing. Just say whatever came to your mind first. Fikiria. What is going to happen? Vincent? Okay. So Eric says nope, unless there's no partnership deed, which means unless it's not registered. Anybody else? Anybody else? Okay, anybody who's thinking class ishe to me, hakuna kitu nashikanisha. We still have cooperative societies to talk about, so relax. What do you think? Rest. Sarah, what do you think? Annette, will Jack pay the money or it will be nope? Rama, yes, he will pay. Okay, anybody who's in between yes and no? Anybody who thinks maybe? See, that's also an answer. There's yes, there's no, and then there is maybe, and then you explain your maybe. So, okay, the question is, these guys took a loan. So John and Mary are in a partnership. In December 2023, they took some business, well, they did business with Naivas worth 1 million. Okay, so they have a debt of 1 million. Jack joined the business in January after the debt had already been taken in December. In February, okay, of 2024, they still haven't paid the money, and Ivers has decided to sue the partnership. So the question is Jack also responsible for this money that was taken when he was not around or not? Yeah, remember the loan was taken in, the supplies were taken in, the debt was accrued in December. Jack has joined in January. So is Jack part of that loan or not?
Only to me, Jack will not be part of the loan repayment.
Okay.
Because when they were taking the loan, the agreement was with John and Mary.
Yeah. So there's that perspective, there is that side. Actually, the answer is yes and no. So the answer is it depends. Okay, it's only that you can take it depends, hakuna point tutapata kwa exam. So the answer will be it depends on the partnership deed. Okay, so if there is no partnership deed, as Eric did put it, then it's yes, because they're all equal partners. That is the assumption. Now, if there is a partnership deed, then there is a question of what does the partnership deed say regarding debts? Okay, because the general rule, first of all, the general rule is that the debts that were accrued before you became a partner, those debts will not bind you, are not legally binding to you. Okay, debts that were accrued before you became a partner, those debts are not legally binding to you. Unless, okay, unless you accepted to be part of those debts. So, unless you're like, yes, I'm aware I'm joining this partnership, I'm aware there is this debt, and I'm part of that debt, then you become bound by those debts. So if Jack was aware of the debt and he accepted it, he'll pay. Otherwise, he'll not pay. So the answer is there. So you say, you explain that. All right, now let's move on to, unless somebody has a question, let's move on quickly, talk about cooperative societies and then end the class. Now with cooperative societies, these are interesting. They're not really, the idea behind a cooperative society is people actually coming together, okay, to pull together resources or to just find a way of solving their social, economic, and cultural needs, okay? It's like when I ask you, why are you in a chama? Like most ladies are in chamas. Nowadays, even men are in chamas. I mean, the only reason why I don't join chamas is because I hate meetings. If there's a way you can join one and they just pay and then fail to attend the meeting, I'll do that. But then the answer will be, why don't you just join a mutual fund? It's easier. But why do people join these things? Well, because there's a goal. The goal could be, let's put together resources, we'll buy land, we'll lease a land, we'll do agriculture, we'll make money, we'll share, so all that stuff. Okay. It's not necessarily to make profit. So the traits, one, the membership tends to be, so hapa kwa sako, I'm just going to go beyond you. The membership tend to be open, of course, open. I mean, open doesn't mean that anybody can join. Open simply means that the people who meet those requirements, the cooperative society has put in place, can join. And they join voluntarily. And these things are controlled by the state. You see, companies are controlled by the market. I mean, yes, there is a Companies Act, you might say, but there is a Company Act. Yes, there's a Company Act. But generally speaking, operations of the company tend to be controlled by simple thing called demand and supply. That is the reason why you can sell your product at whatever price you want, as long as the government hasn't put in place a floor ceiling or, I mean, a floor price or a ceiling price. Economics, simplifying economics. Now, the sources of finance tend to be contribution of the members or sometimes grants from the government. The management tend to be democratic. That's why there is a treasurer, chairperson, and the other one, secretary. And the idea behind all these things is to provide service. So they are not profit driven in as much as they make profit. Okay, this is why religions tend to form FBOs, the faith-based organizations, which is just another version of a cooperative society where you put money You make profit, and then you're like, hang on, your tax yako relax nayo kwanza. Because you have to pay tax. Okay, SACCOs have to pay tax. You just want to pay it the way companies do pay. And you know, the way companies are like struggling with VATs every month or something like that. Now here's the weird part. Corporate societies are not companies, but they are separate legal entity, meaning the society and the members are not the same. Okay? In case they make profit, which they'll call surplus, they don't call it profit. Remember, they are not for profit, service-oriented. That surplus is going to be distributed to members in form of what you call dividend. I don't even know why they call it dividends, and yet they don't make profit, because dividends are supposed to come from profit. But it doesn't matter. This is one of those situations where you change the name and you change the legal repercussions. And of course, they are based on mutual cooperation, basically self-help. All these things I believe are in your notes, I suppose. So what are the advantages of these cooperative societies? Just think of it this way. What are the advantages of a chama or something? For those of you who are in one, or for those of you who are aware of the existence of those things. Quickly, and then we move on. What are the advantages? Come on, come on, come on. Okay, mobilization of resources, limited liabilities to members. Yeah, that's one. You know, you can do something and you're not really going to be bound legally by your name. Anything else? Yep, that's the whole point, really. Provision of credit. Yeah, the other assumption is you're working with people who know what they're doing, so experts. So yeah, all this stuff kind of makes sense why people would want to form them. Okay, and that is in addition to the fact that they're not really that complicated when it comes to their formation. Companies can be complicated because it depends on what you're setting up. If you're setting up an acquisition company that is supposed to be held by a trust, I mean, that can be complicated, but these ones are not. Like ChatGPT. Are you guys aware of something called, I mean, you are supposed to be aware of ChatGPT by now. If you're not aware of it, then it means you don't use a lot of computer, right? Are we aware of this ChatGPT? Now, if you want to really understand a complicated legal structure, try figuring out the ownership of this, okay? Clinton, yes. Try figuring out how OpenAI owns ChatGPT. It's like there is OpenAI, there is the board of OpenAI, which is a non-profit organization, not for profit, which owns a company, okay? A company which is for profit. And that company owns employees who work at ChatGPT, which is also a different thing. It's just, it's interesting, okay? The whole point there is just to avoid liabilities. Like there's a company that is just designed for workers. Kimnyi mnafanya kazi wapi? That we work at ChatGPT. It's like, no, you don't. You actually, your contract is for another company. It's like somebody telling you, I work at Safaricom. It's like, no, you don't. You work for a company that was contracted by Safaricom. Okay? Like those people of customer care. So yeah, but those are not problems you face with these SACCOs. Easy to form. The membership is fairly straightforward. Management, we've already talked about democratic. Liability we've mentioned, limited. Kind of gets rid of middleman's profit, as in ni SACCO na members, the end. Hakuna watu wengine hapo katikati. Okay? Once in a while, the state can assist you depending on what you're doing. You can apply for those grants, okay? Or donations. A relatively stable life compared to like partnership. But when it comes to disadvantages, then yes, there are a bunch. For example, again, the capital is just limited to what the members can contribute. There could be issue with the management. Lack of motivation, obviously. If you're not doing things for profit, then yeah. I mean, I don't know. Some of these chamas you attend, whatever, you hear the stories, you're like, why are you guys still together? Like tulikuja kwa nani, alafu tunafanyaga mchango tunapeleka food. Really, that's the whole point. End month, mtu ako na maunga mingi. So it's really, there really isn't much of headspace going on there. Intellectual laziness is what is happening there. So that can create lack of motivation. There could also be lack of cooperation. Some members just don't like meetings. And then dependency on the government will always create a problem. So these are some things that you need to know about that in addition to whatever you have. Now, let's quickly sum this up by talking about how, first of all, is there any question regarding cooperative societies? I mean, I said I'll rush through that. I didn't mean I want to answer questions. Swali? Okay, yeah, we're good. So there isn't a question. That's Rama. Rama and Swali. Doesn't mean that the rest of you are not Swali. Right. So let's see. Let's talk about the distinction between these. So first of all, a company and a partnership. What's the difference? The difference will come in the form of registration. We said companies must be registered. Right, Eric? Eric has a question. Eric, ask your question before we proceed. Eric? Okay, if you're typing it, you can proceed. I'll just read it as you proceed. Are SACCOs cooperatives? Is a SACCO an example of a cooperative society and they earn profit? They don't make profit, okay? SACCOs don't make profit, they make surplus. I mean, they make profit, they just call it surplus. How do they earn profits? Well, they have those activities they do. The moment people put money together, the real question is, why do they exist? A SACCO, for people who are, okay, coffee, let's talk about coffee. I'm trying to think of something and nothing comes to brain. So, SACCO ya watu wa kahawa or majani chai, whatever. How does it work? Farmers are pooling resources. They create a SACCO. That SACCO, say the SACCO buys a machine to process coffee. Okay? So yeah, I'm talking about the profit thing here. So the SACCO buys the machine. Let me just use a whiteboard because it's the same question asked twice. Yes, limitation usually to about 100. Okay, 10 to 100, depending on, mostly doesn't go past 100. Now, but it depends on when you're registering. The average is up to 100, but sometimes they go past that, depending on how they register. So let me answer the profit. I was saying, if it is farmers, they don't call it profit, they call it surplus. But here's how they make that profit. So farmers who are planting coffee decide to form a SACCO. So the question is why? Well, the answer is maybe because they're tired of taking their coffee Ukombali to be processed. Or they just need somebody to negotiate on their behalf. But in this case, let's say these are serious farmers. So they have this SACCO, okay? They don't want to form a company because a company will pay 30% or whatever it is. So this SACCO decides to invest in a machine to process some of this coffee. So the farmers get the coffee there, okay? That way they cut out the transport and brokers. Now, once the machine processes coffee, so coffee. So what do they do with this coffee? They sell the coffee. Okay? And the sales of the coffee minus the expense of processing the coffee equals profit. But since they're not for profit, they'll say it equals surplus. So the question is, how do they make surplus? That's how they make surplus. Of course, they'll pay their tax based on, you guys know the rate, your SACCOs, and then there'll be that. And then they distribute the money to these people. Now, why isn't everybody doing this if this one looks cheap? Because there is a limitation to how much capital they can have. There's a limitation to how much they can process. There's a limitation to how much surplus they can make. Okay, because otherwise people just say, don't start a company, start a cooperative society. Does that answer your question, Vincent? We answered Planter and Eric and all of you. Are we good? Yes, Vincent? Yes, good. So anybody else has a question? All right, so let's sum this up. Now, when it comes to business and all these other things, quickly again, this part is just because we've already done it. Ni rahisi. Simple. There's going to be a company must be registered. A partnership doesn't have to. The number of people required will create a difference. With a partnership, we said 2 to 20. With a company, it depends. 2 to 50 for private companies, 7 to no maximum for public companies, and we shall revisit this in topic 2. Okay, so minimum number of people, maximum number of people will create a difference. Legal status, one is a company, one is a partnership. One is a limited liability, okay, person, the other one is not. What can members do? Well, in a company, they are shareholders. They're not going to do anything. Okay, company will do everything. In a partnership, the partners have to physically park there because they're employed. They're part of they themselves are the partners. That is the reason why in a law firm, we call them firm because the lawyers are partners. And the same thing goes with accounting. If you start your own audit, you won't call it audit company. You call it an audit firm, and you'll physically work because the accountant has to do the job. Okay. Companies can contract on their own. Partnerships cannot. Companies are managed by directors. Yeah. So that's between companies and partners and so on. The differences will flow, continue. These are things you can, in terms of debts, we know that one. Okay. Partners liable for debt, shareholders not. All that stuff. Now, the similarities are fairly straightforward. They're both businesses, first of all. They are all a business. They're all designed to make profit. Okay. In one, we have shareholders, in the other, we have partners. And they all depend on the level of trust they each have with each other. Now, partnership, or rather, companies, corporate societies, difference again. Why? The basic objective. Why are they created? Business, profit, since it's a company. Cooperative societies, we said, service. Okay? Members, business, 250, 7, 0. Cooperatives, they're not 0, 1 to 100, or 10 to 100, depending. Okay? Anything past that one will require some approval. Usually, these are a bit of a minimum. Okay? But it depends. This one will change depending on what you want to create. So don't take that for that. Because if you're creating a faith-based organization, if you're creating a self-help group, if you're creating a community-based group, if you go to the, what is it called? Social services department, they'll give you a list and it will change depending on what exactly you're creating here. Okay. These are the liability of members, obviously, the membership, the management, the issue of surplus. In a company, the profit is going to be distributed as dividend. In a partnership, the profit is called surplus. Okay. Corporate, not partnership, sorry. Cooperative societies are managed by the treasurer and those other people. Treasurer, chairperson, secretary. Companies, board of directors, or the directors. If there is no board, if it's just you, it's called directors. Yeah, Nakuna board, COND. So all these are just differences. Anyway, there really isn't anything new that I have to talk about there. So there is that. Also remember, in a cooperative society, the government can help. The government doesn't help companies unless it's a company that is owned partly by the government, akina KQ. Then you end up having those bailment. Okay, they're being bailed out. Now, that's it. With a sole proprietor, we know the difference. Okay, first of all, there's a difference in definition. There's a difference in how they're formed, the liabilities, taxes. Companies pay the tax. Sole proprietor, you just pay your own income tax, not the corporate tax. Right. So that's the end of topic 1. The idea was for you to understand the various types of business entities that you can choose from if you're starting. So now we know. We know there is a company, there's a partnership, there is a sole proprietor. And so from now henceforth, we are just going to be talking about companies. So the next topic will be formation of a company. That's topic 2. So topic 1 was just deciding what are you going for. Topic 2, now we look at the steps involved in how to form a company and what are your rights as a promoter and things of that nature. Any question up to that part? Swali? Yeah. So,
Mwalimu nauliza,
Vincent, go ahead.
in an exam formation, how are the questions set? Are you going to give the S laws or you are just the entire?
They are both.
Like we enter Solomon versus Solomon and company.
Exactly. We'll see the past papers. In fact, after topic 2, we'll look at the past papers. It's just that right now, if I nikitoa past paper, is probably just one question. But after the next topic, at least we'll start going through the past papers, okay? But they're direct questions and also cases, zote ziko. Okay? There's a part where you'll be told, ABCD did this and that and that and that, and then you're told advice. So you're given a case. And then there are those questions where you're just told, state and explain this thing. So we'll see. Nile tu sasa, since it's topic 1, I just don't want to go into it. But after topic 2, we will be using past papers in classes. That way, by the time to Maliza, you don't need to set a class aside a revision. So we'll be looking at a topic and also looking at questions relating to that topic as we continue. So. Okay. Any other issue? Now, regarding what Sarah had said, the issue of traffic, again, I'll just remind you. For those of you who probably have joined Kama Tunaendelea, just tukimaliza hivi, make sure you get what was covered. At least we know where we are, and then also the videos tend to help, okay? For those people who are, who joined late. Okay, if there is any other issue, WhatsApp group, post it there. That's up.
Just a request to Mwalimu. If you share the notes for the next topic, that we prepare earlier before the class on Friday.
Okay, so that will, all right, we'll see. Normally I tend to post notes, but Nisa, we'll do that. Usually, because sometimes you post notes, people you pay more attention to the notes than the class, but it's sort of, yeah, no problem. I'll ndaziweka hapo kwa group. Nikisahau mnikumbushe, yeah? Sometimes you forget, but it's not a problem. So, any other thing before we sum it up? Okay, so have a lovely, Clanta, go ahead.
No, I don't have a question.
So then have a lovely evening, guys, and I'll see you on Friday. So Sunday we are not meeting. Where's the link on Sunday?
Good night, Mwalimu.
Good night.
Good night.
All right.